Good evening and welcome to the prospect here in One Hub Racing. I'm Tom Kent in the country box. Alongside me is Aaron Wyatt, giving you the details for tonight's action. We're at the North Hampshire countryside, that is Silverstone for the British Grand Prix, round 7 out of 10 in season 19. Owen, good evening, and we're looking forward to some brilliant racing around this historical fast Silverstone track.
Yes, absolutely, Tom. Hello, viewers. Nice to see you all again, and very much looking forward. We're getting towards the business end of the season now, and I wonder how much the drivers have been preparing for this week, because obviously on the game this week we had Imola introduced. I know everyone's been doing their laps round there, and I do wonder how many have focused on that, because that's obviously our season finale, but this is all building towards it. So Silverstone should be a good race. We've always seen good racing here. I remember me and Austin once upon a time covered a championship decider here, and the Renault drivers took each other right at the end, and it caused all sorts of drama. I'm hoping we get anything close to that tonight, and it'll be a classic.
And I think Silverstone should be a classic as well. I mean, we had quite a lot of carnage last week at Spa, particularly involving the championship leader Fozzie Bear, who came together with indecisive Mackie on the exit of Radion, and that has had massive bearings in the championship, especially with Josh Wilkins coming out on top for the third time this season. 10 points separating the top 3 in the championship, and it's very much all to play for, with 21 points, which is the maximum you can get in a race for a single driver. Any one of those 3 could be leading the championship by the end of tonight.
It really is that close now, isn't it? I think it's good to see as well that everyone is staying competitive at this stage of the game. And I was saying, we'll talk about the entries a bit later on, but the way Alfa Romeo work at the minute, I think Josh Wilkins couldn't ask for a better teammate to help him in this championship push. Honestly, I think that team is the strongest on the grid. And for Josh to be so quick recently and so close, I think Ferrari have got to be looking over their shoulder. I'd bet that you'd see Josh leading this championship at the end of today, especially at his home race as well. What better place to take the lead of the championship if he can manage it?
Yeah, absolutely. So whilst we're waiting for the session to begin, we'll mention our sponsors and partners. We begin with Next Level Racing, who sponsor One Hub Racing by providing an NLR Direct Drive stand to the Driver of the Season award, and 3M Sim Racing, who sponsor the league by providing a pair of their sim racing gloves to the driver with the most combined total of pole positions and fastest laps. Our partners, Vespertine, who support the championship prizes, and ERT, who supports the Going Gets Tough award. So if you've had a season, for instance, where luck has not quite been on your side, but you deserve some form of award for your efforts, that's what the Going Gets Tough award is there for.
Yeah, great to see all our partners and sponsors being there, helping us as well. Thanks, of course, as well to all of our race premium drivers. They obviously help us out massively, and it's great to see so many of them on the grid tonight once again.
So just looking at some pre-race interviews going into the round at Silverstone. I'm sure it's the driver's favourite here. I mean, a lot of the drivers involved in One Hub Racing are British, so they'll know the Silverstone track very, very well. I'm just trying to get the pre-season because I've got so many tabs open. I'm just switching across to see, so I make sure I've got the right tab open. Here we go. Look, so pre-race interviews. So what kind of race are you expecting this week? Well, I'm just looking to see what any of the championship contenders have had to say about it. We're beginning with Josh Wilkins. He's hoping for a strong performance. Silverstone is a favourite of his. Could that give him the confidence boost he needs to go for his 4th victory of the season and possibly take the lead of the championship going into the last 3 events of the year? Now, the last 3 events of the year will be at the Red Bull Ring in Austin, and then the final round will be at the new Imola circuit that's been added to the F1 2021 game cycle this week, and I cannot wait for these cars to be circulating around then.
Yeah, it's going to be a great end of the season, I think, and especially with tonight. You mentioned Josh's answer saying he wanted a strong finish tonight. Well, do you know what? Alex Lilliard, his teammate, he says that Silverstone is his favourite track. He's always gone well here. And let's say, well, how well this Alfa Romeo team works tonight, having both drivers feeling confident going into tonight. They really are a very strong partnership. That's, of course, if Alex Lilliard is actually here. Is he actually in the lobby? I'm noticing we do appear to have a missing Alfa Romeo. So that team who works so well together, it would be useful to have both drivers. But they've got one more minute to get back in. But certainly both Alfa Romeos to look strong. But as I also mentioned, as you said as well, Imola on the calendar. I think everyone was tempted to do laps, and that's why I mentioned it at the start, because there's a good chance a lot of these drivers might have got a bit distracted by Imola, and I wonder just how much that might affect their preparation going into this one.
So just looking at the drivers' standings going into this round, Fozzie Bear with that non-finish, which is his first of the season, he's on 84 points. Josh Wilkins in second on 79, and Jason in third on 74. Then we've got Alex Elliott in fourth on 55. In the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari still lead the way on 158 points, but they're only 24 clear of Alfa Romeo, so it looks like a two-horse race for the Teams' Championship in the Prospect tier. Both teams, of course, powered by Ferrari as well. Who would have thought that?
Yes, the Ferrari powertrain absolutely doing wonders this season in one hub. Special mention though to McLaren, who sit third in the Constructors. They're looking pretty good to finish there. I'm not sure they can push up, but a double podium last week with Alls ahead of Jamie. I mean, that was superb from them. Alls on some good form, Jamie as well. Maybe they can build on that tonight as well at their home races, but certainly good to see McLaren up there as well. I wonder how that will maybe affect the championship. I mean, Jason only finished down in 6th place, behind both McLarens. Even Infamous got ahead of him as well. So a few more teams entering the fray might affect that Constructors' Championship as well. But we'll see how that all pans out as we head through tonight. Speaking of Jamie, I wanted to bring him up because I don't know if you saw his press conference question. He was basically one of the few drivers last week that wasn't involved in any sort of accident. And he was giving advice to those who were involved in accidents last week to say how they can't get involved anymore. He's obviously one of, if not the most experienced drivers we've ever had in this league. And he gave a massive list of instructions. And I think it shows just how much experience he has and how much he deserves to maybe have a few more wins, because this is how he gets so many consistent finishes. He's gone on about his patience, his choosing of fights, not overdriving, not being a hero into turn one, leaving space, keeping in track limits and driving to his pace. So if you're looking for any driver to give you tips on this game, he's your man, because he absolutely goes out all out and above to do everything in his power to keep in the races, and that's how he gets results like last week. It was a great answer he had in the press conference.
I perfectly agree with everything you've said there. Jamie Met, even though he hasn't always been at the top, he has had his own melodies on track, particularly the collision with one of the Mercedes drivers. I think it might have been either Joe or Wace he had in Paul Ricard. He had his own spin in Singapore as well a couple of weeks back, but at Spa was where he got it right. He remained out of trouble to help himself get up to P2, I believe, or P3 if I'm mistaken. He finished on the podium either way, but still, it was a great result for the Brits. I think he's somewhere in the north actually of England. I'm just trying to remember whereabouts he's from. By the way, he's done a tremendous job this season. Even though he hasn't picked up the best of results in some races, he's most certainly done well in others. Now, last week in the Prospect tier, just as something on the steward's briefing, because 14 incidents had been reported throughout all 5 tiers. So in case you didn't know, there is the Prospect tier, which is the bottom tier, then it's the points tier, then the podium tier, then it's for Pinnacle, Precision is the next one, and then Pinnacle is the top tier of all the 5. What I was going to say was, should I find it, was that the Prospect tier was the naughtiest out of those, because even though 14 incidents were reported, Prospect tier was the naughtiest with 5 reported incidents. Both Indecisive and Storm received 20-second time penalties for causing major incidents on track. Wace was, on the other hand, received 2 penalty points on his licence for using offensive language in the chat after the race. This will not be tolerated by the stewards. Now that's an interesting thing, because whilst it's not just what happens on track, it's sometimes how drivers behave afterwards, and it's quite a common thing when you get that level of adrenaline pumped inside you. You feel sometimes you want to take it out on someone, but then it has disastrous consequences following that.
Well, look, it's a league that holds itself to high standards, so I think it's absolutely right, I guess, that they sort of keep the drivers on a leash like that and make sure they don't say anything too much out of line, because it looks bad on the league if they say something too bad. So I understand why they give penalties for that type of thing, and I guess it just sort of keeps their level-headed maybe for next week. So yeah, it's worth keeping in mind for those drivers. Now, as we load in towards qualifying, we got to ask the question, because the people who are asking the questions for all the drivers this week, we're really wondering what drivers are going to think about a wet race here. It's Silverstone, it's in England, it happens to rain quite often. And if it rains tonight, all the drivers are asked how they would deal with the rain. And a lot of them sort of had varied answers, because the likes of Jess, she said she needed to be a wet race in general. No changeable conditions because that would ruin her strategy for setups. While others like Alex Lilliard thought he'd love the changeable conditions. And so if we get anything like this tonight, where there is changeable conditions or wet weather, as this would sort of give you an example, this is intermediate conditions, if we get this in the race, then yeah, drivers have been asked to think about that, and will be fascinating to see how they all deal with it. But that is intermediates, as I said, and it looks like that's pretty set in.
So just to confirm, at the moment, there's only one Alfa Romeo driver in there, which is Josh Wilkins, which is not a good sign for them because they really need Alex Lilliard in there to help them in the constructors' fight with Ferrari. So Josh Wilkins looks as though he could well be doing it all by himself this week. We are seeing one of the cars, or two cars, heading out on track. We're seeing an AlphaTauri of Smithy, who at one point during that race at Spa, I think it was like second or something, or in the top three, until he had this accident that cost him a good chance of possibly going for the race victory, given the mayhem we had. But he's out on circuit now. He's got a Ferrari behind him, which is Jason.
Yeah, Jason out onto track. He was one of the two drivers who were being asked questions about their rivalries in this last week, because obviously with the championship getting heated, let's say, with the points being so close, that has become the main point of conversation. And I think he was asked along with Josh Wilkins about how he was looking for the end of the season. And I'm just going to try and get the answer now. We've got Josh's answer, but Jason hadn't quite answered, so I'll see if he'd answered now. But I'll tell you what Josh was saying about the championship fight. Basically, he was asked, what do you have up your sleeve to beat Ferrari this season? And as he said, he's got the most wins, he's got good late race pace, he's always in the top 5 in qualifying, he's the best in the league, he thinks. But he needs Fawlty to make more mistakes from the win the titles. That's what he says. But I want to see if Jason had anything to say, because with Josh having such an aggressive answer, I would love to know what Jason would have to say about that, because most drivers maybe want to keep a lid on it at this stage, but no, that is properly wanting a big answer. So let me see if Jason has responded to that, because I'm sure he would have saw that and thought, I've got to get a word in there. He can't just be that confident. I hope he has. And he has. Thank goodness for that. He has. And well, he thinks Ferrari are the fastest. So it's two people up against each other, saying Jason thinks I'm the fastest, Ferrari are the fastest, Josh thinks we're the fastest. That is building up very nicely. I hope these two are going to be close to each other on track tonight, because they are talking the fighting talk, and I love it.
And that takes us to the rivalry as well, because like you see that, you know, Jason, in response to the rivalry he has with Josh Wilkins, saying Ferrari have been dominant for much of the season, although Alpha are bearing down on you. Why you still hold the advantage of the rest of the way? Now, that was something I was asking last week, actually, and I'm just trying to see what his response to that for Jason. Yeah, I think that was just what you exactly said there, Owen. So, yeah, I mean, Ferrari do look very, very strong over the course of the season. They have been in a lot of the races, and Jason and Fuzzy Bear working very, very well together. And what I was going to say was, whilst you were mentioning that, was the hot and cold list. Now, one driver who's been in good form in recent races has been Ols in the McLaren. He's finished on the podium in the last two races in Spa and Singapore. And I'm just looking to see what it says. Now, he's saying really spearheading his and teammates push in the constructors, and now they look comfortable as third place constructors. Well, they say they're comfortable. We've still got 4 races to go where a lot can still change. Now, if Ferrari and Alfa Romeo have their own maladies, McLaren could all of a sudden throw themselves right back into the mix. Now, the maximum number of points a team can achieve in a single round in one hub racing, I believe, if my maths are correct, I believe the maximum you can get is 38, which is still quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that is a decent total, but I do think it would take quite a lot for them to get up there, as Smithy says the first time of the session. But I guess if you're in it to win it for McLaren, which they are, they've got 2 drivers here tonight, that could put pressure on Alfa Romeo. So if they keep the form up, yeah, All's absolutely spearheading that train at the moment, with the McLaren's, like I say, finishing second and third last week. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if there's anything that can come out of it.
So 2 other drivers have set times. Jason's second on a 1:38.5, and Matthias a half attempt shy of him in third on a 1:38.6. We've got the other AlphaTauri crossing over the line. That is Buzzer coming out of Club Corner. Slides his way to the line. Nearly see the track limits whilst he's Goes to P2 on a 1:38.5, but there's definitely more time to be found from the AlphaTauri pilot. So it's AlphaTauri 1 and 2 at the moment, but we've still got plenty of other drivers who have yet to post times.
Yeah, Baza, one of the drivers who was answering questions in the press conference earlier on, or as with the previous interviews, and he was actually saying he's more comfortable in the wet, and so he will love to see these conditions. So while he sits third at the moment, with the exact same time as Fuzzy Bear on my screen anyway, it must be a little bit slower though, because Fuzzy said it's second and still got ahead. Regardless, Baza is comfortable in these conditions and should have some good pace. He's shown potential to go for podiums. I wonder if this will be the week he gets it, especially if his weather stays wet and towards the race. His potential confidence in the wet could pay dividends. But yeah, Josh has now also set a time. He is the head of the three main title contenders by just 2/10. But Smithy's time is holding quite nicely at the moment, which is good to see for him. Is Jason on lap? He is invalid. I want to say that would have went fastest anyway. That would give us a little indication. No, it wouldn't have went fastest even when it's invalidated. So Smithy, a good time as it stands.
So Smithy fastest by over half a second from Josh Wilkins, who's in P2 on a 1:38.2. But he's set the fastest first sector time on this current lap he's on. We've got him in our picture at the moment, so we'll stay with him for now. The time is going to tick by ever so quickly because with these conditions, it's a long lap, isn't it, round Silverstone?
It is a long lap, especially with how many varied, fast corners there are. Even a little less rain, a better wet line through the corner, a drying line. You know, you can go that couple mile an hour faster and it can make all the difference throughout the whole lap. And so we will hopefully see these times keep going as a McLaren of Jimmy Mick goes up into P8. Josh Wilkins is on course for P1. Joe has just gone second. We've got the Ferrari as well of Fozzy, who's looking good, and he's gone second himself. We'll have the Red Bull starting lap, and then we'll have Ols, the hot driver at the minute. We'll see how he gets on. And no improvement, unfortunately, for him there. But this is the main event, potentially. Here is Josh Wilkins, and he has gone P1, and by a distance, half a second then, as he sits there, not quite the first into the 36s, but if he keeps improving at that rate, he'll be well into the 1 minute 36s quite soon. So looking and All's his time is just updated. Sorry to interrupt, but his time's updated because he's just left the session, and that could be where Alls is left in this session. So he currently sits on a 37.4, and he's just been kicked out of the session. So hopefully he can get back in, but if he can't, that's where he sits.
Now, Indecisive is in the hot category, but under the colour, as he feels aggrieved by some of the decisions of late and driving angrily. It really shows his decline in form. He needs to wake up and calm down.
Yes, white hot angry, you could say, in this new livery that Red Bull are running. Not too sure how long this is going to be in the game for, but the white Red Bull is absolutely stunning, and it's good to see it in the game for a little bit anyway. But yeah, Indecisive certainly wanting to prove something tonight, and we'll see if he can manage it. And I think this is his first time, so we're not getting any sort of split time, so we'll have to wait and see when he crosses the line where he's going to be as he heads through into the last couple of corners now. No traffic in front of him, so all he has to worry about is the road in front of him. Intermediate conditions still just as similar as they were at the start of the session, so consistently able to go round and not worry about the conditions rapidly changing, but he has only gone P12.
So P12 for Mackie. We're just looking to see who else is on the flying lap. Jamie Met, I think, maybe going for another timed effort. Let's see what his time's like in Sector 1. He's 700ths away from before, so I wonder if the drivers will be starting to get another set of intermediates on. Now, you've got to really time this very well and be clever, because you do lose a lot of time on the out lap, the flying lap, and the in lap, and sometimes you may need to do 2 flying laps in a row to sort of stack up your chances of setting a strong lap time.
Yeah, you've really got to be in the right place at the right time with this. I've always found, actually, with intermediate runs that you're always going to go faster on your second or third lap. So if people are timing their tyre changes, they've got to make sure that they have rubbered the tyres in by the time they start their last laps. And that's why you might see a few drivers out there with 2 or 3 laps on a set of tyres, as you can see with the likes of Baza, who's on his 4th lap, Joey's just invalidated, he's on his 4th lap, TW, a couple of others. Jimmy Met's still improving on his 4th lap, and he will complete that time. and I wonder if he'll be able to find any positions, because TJW was actually in the grass when I just checked on him, so he should be able to at least beat him if he gets around the final corner. And he has. He's actually gone to P6. He's been beating Joe as well, so yeah, that proves you can find improvement on any sort of age of tyre, but you've just got to be out on the track at the right time. I just would say not be on brand new tyres. That's all the advice I'd give.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say, Jamie found a lot of time in the last section.
Oh! Has he, Infamous, just crashed into Ols? Just cut to that accident. You can see Ols is cutting through the grass right now. And I'm wondering if he has just been hit as he's coming out of the pit lane by Infamous, because that was all getting all very bunched up there. And now he's driving in circles, Ols. Is he I think he's just letting people through?
Yeah, I think he's just staying out of people's way, to be honest with you, which is, to be fair, this is actually a convenient place for him to just stay out of people's way, as this run-off area of the loop and Aintree, so it should be okay. But I didn't quite pick it up on the stream. I didn't quite see who was actually coming out of the pits before the pair came together, so you may have had better eyes on it than I did, Owen.
Yeah, it was definitely Ols coming out of the pits. He's obviously on the outside of turn 2, and we've seen, even in the dry, that the turn 1 flat-out kink can unsettle the car, and I'm just wondering if Infamous has been unsettled and then come across Ols coming out of the pits and not been able to avoid him. But because you don't crash generally at turn 2 and end up in the middle of the track, so he must have hit him. But I can't fully confirm it. I wouldn't put any blame on either driver anyway, because there's nothing you can really do. It just seems like bad timing, but that's why Infamous is out of the session without having set a lap. And yeah, Ols just getting back to the pits. If he's been hit hard enough, he might end up with side pod damage, and I wonder if that's why he's slowly coming back. We'll see if he pits or not. But he certainly was off the track for such a long time that I would possibly worry about having damage on the side pod. But we'll see.
Just seen Mackie go for a spin. He was on course for a better time than before, but he's lost it on the exit of Club Corner, so that's his luck ruined. And Jason going over the line to improve his time. Only P8 though for Jason, so there's definitely more time for him to find him. He did find 6/10 over the course of that lap.
Yeah, still time being found. Is that a car off the road? Is that indecisive at the final corner? And the front wing as well. Didn't really need to risk that. He'd already ruined his lap, but now he's going to have to do the whole in-lap. And I'm not too sure how long's left in the session. 5.5 minutes. He's going to be in a bit of a difficult position. And he's now got Josh Wilkins catching up with him. And that's going to be a slow car at turn 2 or 3. So hopefully Josh can see him coming, because the P1 man, we know he's got some good pace out there. It would be a shame to see him waste it. Now, Smithy is on a lap. I wonder if he's going to improve. He's half a second off. TJW, who was in the grass a few moments ago, has now found himself up on the front row. How about the AlphaTauri? Waste has got to third, but Smithy hasn't improved. So we'll see. What is that? 6 different teams in the top 6. Very nice to see that. Ols didn't decide to pit, but he hasn't validated his time. Next up to finish a lap is that Fozzie Bear. He's not improving though in the minute in the Ferrari. Ferrari drowning down in 8th and 10th at the minute. It's not really anywhere near where they should be if they're in the championship fight. So they've really got to find something in these last 4 minutes.
Fozzie Bear over the line then for Ferrari. He goes up to P6. He improved in the last sector by 0.3. So I think a lot of the time being found is in the last sector. Because looking at TJW, he found a whole second over the course of that last lap, including 3 or 4 tenths in the final sector. So that was a good effort there from TJW. I don't know if he's going for another lap. He's probably not, because he's low on fuel. So he'll need to come back. And Jason goes up to P3 with his latest lap.
Yep, good improvement there. Once again in the final sector, fighting the time. Stevens improved, but not in position. Here comes Josh. Is he going to extinguish Ferrari's hopes here? Let's see. Will he be the first into the 36s? You bet he will. That's a fantastic lap once again. Showing just how fast he is here, Josh Wilkins. And I imagine he'll just keep going round. I don't think he's got time to pit, but if he does decide to pit, that'll be interesting to see how he gets on. But at the minute, a 0.4 of a second buffer at the moment. Who else is on a lap? Let's see. Baz is out there. Baz, let's say, only in 9th place. We'll see if he can find any more time, as he says he's confident in the conditions. Joe in the Mercedes is on a lap. Jess is starting a lap, as is her teammate. Let's just quickly mention him while we're in a little bit of a lull. He is the cold driver this week, is Storm, and he hasn't actually done a lap yet. he is, I think, last in the standings of the full-time drivers who started the season, if that makes sense. So he needs to have a good result tonight as Joe splits the AlphaTauris up there in P9. So eyes on Storm to try and prove himself tonight. Is that Ferrari finishing a lap as well?
Yes, it is.
It is. Fozzie Bear, second place. Nice lap.
Yes, he was 3/10 faster than before, so very well done to him. Jason's lap has been invalidated, so he'll have to go again. Buzz's lap has been invalidated. Stevens on a lap, though, I think. Oh, no, that's invalidated as well. Storm has begun his first time lap, though, in the Alpine. He really needs a strong race here. He's still in the cold list at the moment, as we've already mentioned, so it's...
Look at Josh.
Yeah, quarter of a second up by Sector 2 from the lap he posted. That is currently provisional pole, so Wilkins absolutely flying as Buzzer crashes out.
So that is going to be Bowser possibly not starting in the top 10 anymore. We'll see how that develops. But is Josh Wilkins going to improve? Oh, he set the exact same lap time as last time. That's extraordinary. He set the same lap twice and now he's invalidated the next one. So that will give him a chance to save some ERS up for a final run. But Josh proving again he is the fastest one out there. But can he get caught by anyone? Because we do have a few cars still out there. Smithy's not improving massively, but as you keep saying, Tom, the final sector seems to be where people are finding some time, as Smithy does find a little bit of time, not enough to gain a position, but still a faster lap time than before. Storm is invalidated, and that means we can focus on, I believe, the Mercedes of Joey's next. He's slow, which would leave, who's this, Fozzie Bear again. Oh, he's invalidated as well. He's bolted for the pit lane. So that's his qualifying over. He's not going to get it for another lap then. How about Jamie Metz? He's on a lap and he's up by 3/10. This will be taking Baza outside the top 10. And we'll discuss what the drivers are thinking about qualifying positions because they had a few things to say about this earlier on. But for now, Jamie wants to try and break into that top 10. And we'll see if he can do it from McLaren as he heads through the final chicane and towards the finish line.
So Jamie Matt, 3/10 up by Sector 2. Oh, he didn't get Club Corner right. So they had to lift off the throttle, which sacrificed some exit speed. He goes 9th, but he would have hoped for more time than that. Smithy's on a fast lap. 3/10 up through Sector 1 from what he's set before, just in that sector alone. So he's one to most certainly look out for. Matthias is coming into the last corner now. 700ths up by Sector 2 from what he has set before. Where is this going to put him? He's currently P7. But he's going to go over the line now, and it's a 1:37.3, a 10th up from before, 5th fastest. Who is next over the line? Waste is about to start his final attempt. So Jess, I believe, is the next one behind, but she's on a slow lap, so we'll come away from her. TJW is about to start a final lap, so we'll go to Smithy then. Nearly 6/10 up from before. This could put him on the front row here. Oh, he slides coming out of club, but over the line does Smithy, and he goes to P2, but he did lose time in the last sector.
Yeah, there could have been pole position for him there if he got that right, but still a decent front row spot as Storm now comes around the final corner. Is there a good position for him? No, behind his teammate in 13th place. Red Bull of Indecisive isn't going to make it. He was on a night lap, but he hasn't quite got there to start his lap. Joe has improved up to P5, and now we have the two McLarens coming through. First up is going to be Jamie. He's 2/10 up, but remember he lost a little bit of time in the last sector on this last attempt, and so he could find himself right up on the second row of this grid if he can nail this last sector. It could even be a front row if he finds enough time. But all these cars crossing the line now, these are their final attempts. So let's see, Jamie, can he find time? Let's see how he gets through the chicane. All looks relatively smooth this time, and as he comes across the line, he's used all his ERS up, but he still goes into second place. Really good lap there from Jamie Met, but here comes Ols. He's slow, he's had a bad lap. Can Fozzie Bear, or his teammate, is actually out of the session, so they've retired the Ferraris. No improvement going to come their way then. Matthias, this is a pole position lap if he can get this last sector right, because he's all ready. They only need to find one more 10th in the big final sector 3. Oh, he's done it! 5/1000 of a second. He's made it work. What a lap for Matthias, who takes pole for Haas. Is anyone going to be able to beat him? Smithy's slow. There's a Jess cross the line. She hasn't improved by much. And I think that does mean, unless Stormkins can find 2.2 seconds in the final sector, that we find Matthias for Haas on pole position. What a lap.
What a sensational lap from Matthias in the Haas, would you believe it? I can't quite remember if he's been on pole position before this season.
His first one. It's his
first one, yep. So Matthias on pole then for Haas in the British Grand Prix in the prospects here. Storm remains in 13th. He did improve by a small margin, but nothing changed his position. So Matthias in the house on pole with Josh Wilkins, the highest of the championship contenders, in P2, and Jamie Met in P3 ahead of Smithy in 4th. Fozzie Bear only 5th, and Jason down in 8th.
Yeah, so strong for Josh. Even though he didn't quite manage the pole position, he still is way ahead of where his championship rivals are. And as the sole Alfa Romeo, I think he will still be happy with that in the end. But what a lap from Matthias. He really pulled it out of the bag right at the end of the session to put it on pole and see if he can have a good race today. He's currently sitting 12th in the driver's standings, and he's really, let's say, pulled off a fantastic result. But the grid then: Matthias from Josh, then Jamie, Smithy, Fozzie Bear, TJW and Joe. Look at that, 7 different teams in the top 7, very competitive. Jason in 8th, Wace, Alls and Bazza, the Welshman all together in 9th, 10th and 11th. Then we have Jess, Storm, Stephen, Indecisive, then the 2 cars that didn't set time, Infamous and Demon.
Less than 0.6 of a second separates the top 10 as well. That's how close it was here at Silverstone and in the wet as well. So not only a lot of these can cope with it in the dry, but they can cope with it in intermediate conditions, which is excellent to see. Now we go on to the race, Owen. 26 laps. Is it going to be dry or is it going to be wet? Very quickly.
Oh, give us some changeable conditions. Go on. Be nice to us. Let's have a proper race. I'm excited for this, actually. Very tense. It could tell us a lot about what these setups are, because we're in intermediate conditions again. So that could mean Matthias' pace is very real, because what we sometimes see is people go full on for the wet setup in a qualifying session and then drying in the race. But this is the same conditions as qualifying, which means that Matthias should theoretically have the pace in the race. Now, the drivers were asked questions on whether quali here is more important or less important than on other tracks. And I'll quickly summarise what the drivers are saying. Josh doesn't have enough knowledge to really tell you what quali is like compared to the other tracks here. Jess and Baz, I don't think this track's more or less important than the other tracks. Jamie went into depth with some DRS trains, which could set you back, but there's going to be none of that today. No DRS trains, and so really, if you're at the front, you don't have to worry about that anymore, which is really important. And we might see how that develops in the race. And Alex, even though he's not here, he expects that regardless of qualifying, you'll still see the fastest drivers at the front by the end of the race. And like I say, with 7 different teams in the top 7, I mean, you could see anything today. This is super competitive. One of the best grids, if not the best grid we've had all season. Yeah,
Matthias on pole then, ahead of Wilkins, the highest of the race premium drivers in P2, and it's Jamie and Smithy next up, then it's Fozzie Bear and TJW. Joa, Jason, Wace and Alls round out the top 10, then it's Buzzer and Jess on row 6. Storm and Stephen are on row 7, followed by Mackie and Infamous on the 8th row, and at the back is Demon. Now, unsurprisingly, all the drivers are on the intermediate compound. One thing I was going to mention, actually, is that even though it is an intermediate race, there is still the mandatory rule of 2 pit stops from each driver.
Yep, absolutely right. And they will probably be very interesting to see where they decide to take these. I imagine they'll probably use the safety cars or VSCs. Now, I can actually quickly go on to one more thing from the previous interviews, is that everyone was also asked if a full wet race, or, you know, any inters, would help them. Josh doesn't think a wet race would help him, but he thinks it'd be exciting, but that's not exactly the most confident answer you've ever seen. Jess, if it's wet the whole race, she'll be happy enough because she can use her wet setup. Bazza, obviously he crashed in qualifying, but still thinks he's more comfortable in the wet. Jamie actually would have preferred it to be wet elsewhere because he thinks Silverstone the dry is quite fun, so it's a shame for him, but still in P3, so maybe he still likes the wet anyway. And obviously Alex, who's not here, he wants changeable conditions, but he's not going to get it. And as they all head round, they were also asked how pit stops would work, but I think that's all thrown out the window, really. They're all talking about safety cars or what their various strategies were going to be, but I think that was all based on dry to different dries. This is all inter the inter. You can really pit whenever you want. So anything that the drivers have done in terms of strategy for pit stops, I think that's gone out the window, and it's a bit of a free-for-all now.
So Matthias on pole position, just look to see where he is in the championship. He's only 12th in the standings on 15 points, and he hasn't finished on the podium yet this season either, so he is in desperate need of a good result here today is Matthias, as the 17 drivers make their way back onto the grid for the start of this 26-lap British Grand Prix. We don't know what the weather will bring. We'll find out in due course. You can see the Alpines coming onto the grid, as well as the Red Bulls, and Demon at the back in the second of the Aston Martins. So Matthias on pole on the right, Josh Wilkins in the Alfa Romeo on the left, who will lead down into the first corner of Abbey. The 5 red lights appear in front of the drivers. It's lights out, and away we go. Wilkins gets off the grid very, very well. It's going to lead into Abbey corner ahead of Matthias as they go into Abbey now. So Wilkins leads, and it's Smithy who gets up into second place in the AlphaTauri. So good start from him from fourth on the grid. Matthias down to third. Jamie Met down to fourth. Fuzzy Bear remains in fifth, had a TJW, but they go side by side as they come through the loop for the first time. Jamie under threat now from Fuzzy Bear, and Fuzzy Bear, he nearly loses it. He's lost it completely. He's lost it completely, facing the wrong way, and he goes to the back of the field. But here's Wilkins, past the Wellington Straight, still in the lead, Owen Wyatt.
Absolute disaster for Ferrari. Jason jumped the start, he's got to take a drive-through penalty, and Fuzzy Bear, with a collision with Jimmy Met, unsettled on the exit of Abbey, he's went and spun off in the later part of the lap. So that's one at the back, one going to join him at the back, and Josh Wilkins is 1.5 seconds clear already, and that is a fantastic start for him in the sole Alfa Romeo. And this has blown the race wide open. Matthias didn't get the greatest run. Slippy, what a start from him. But my goodness, the drama for Ferrari.
This is exactly the start that Alfa Romeo wanted. Wilkins in the race lead. Sad to say that Alex Lear is not in the race, but Fuzzy Bear's at the back, and Jason, who's jumped the start, will soon be joining him at the back. And Storm has just been overtaken by Fuzzy Bear, so Fuzzy Bear's got it all to do, as he's now in 16th place.
So, end of the first lap, Smithy still extending or still losing time to Josh Wilkins as Jason straight away takes his drive-through penalty. Wace also jumped the start, and so he will also fall to the back of the grid. There were some front wings flying about, and I wonder if one of them was possibly from Storm. It was indeed. He's into the pit lane, and he's going to be taking a new front wing. So that's 3 cars in the pit lane on the first lap, and this is one of the worst tracks to get a drive-through on, because of how slow the pit lane speed limit is. It's the slowest on the entire calendar, and you can see it for yourself if you're watching just how slow they all are, and they're going to fall way to the back. Meanwhile, Matthias, he wants that second place back, and you can see why. Smithy's not nearly fast enough to keep up with Josh. At this rate, Josh will be a pit stop clear before long, as TJW puts it into the gravel trap and just wants to make sure he doesn't hit anyone on the straight. His teammate nearly collides with him, in fact, but he has got away. I don't think we've any damage, but yeah, I think Matthias has had a mistake now. They're all making mistakes, and it's meaning that Josh Wilkins, he seems so comfortable right now.
So Wilkins continues to lead. TJW's spin has dropped him down to 13th place, so drivers beginning to struggle. I think this is the thing when you're on full tanks of fuel. The braking distance is going to be more than what it would have been over the course of a single lap qualifying. So, well, I'll say single lap qualifying, over the course of a single lap when you do a flying lap, if that makes sense. So Wilkins 3 seconds out in front with Smithy second. It's Matthias ahead of Jamie. Yoa in a fine 5th place at the moment. Baz is 6th. All 7th ahead of Infamous, Stephen and Mackie rounding out your top 10. As Stephen into the slipstream of Infamous as they go down the hanger straight. Stephen to the outside, and he surely is going to pull off a simple manoeuvre, has to be said. I think Infamous was rather kind, letting him through there before they got to the corner, but that's Stephen through into 8th.
Yeah, clever driving now from both drivers. I mean, they're driving so sort of calmly, and it's fair to say that, because, I mean, they've made 6 and 7 places up respectively, Stephen and Infamous, and the Hound as well, indecisive with 5. They don't want to throw all that away so early on after they've made so much good progress. It's a long race. It's only lap 3 now out of 26, as Infamous goes off the road actually and gets a penalty, but long way to go. I think these guys are probably just trying to get settled in now and don't want to fight too hard, because I think Smithy and Matthias, they were losing time on, you know, they were causing each other to lose time by getting so close.
On the tail of the other Aston Martin of TJW, so this could get interesting, because these two were in the top 6 at the start. Now they're down in 12th and 13th positions. So TJW bending for all he can. But I'm not sure if he's going to hold Fuzzy Bear off for long enough, because Fuzzy Bear, as we all know, is a faster driver than TJW.
it's actually probably not a good driver for Fawzi to come up towards the backup, because this is someone who he had relatively similar pace to in qualifying, so it might not be an easy overtake to do. And when he's catching him so early on his comeback, this might seriously halt the progress for maybe too long. And of course, yeah, well, there's no DRS to help her either. I mean, they're both catching up to Jess. Perhaps that'll help Fawzi find an opening, but yeah, this isn't really the best position to be in. I mean, let's see his gap to the leader. It's already 18 seconds, so it already isn't looking too good. But yeah, he's not quick enough to pass TJW at the moment, as Josh Wilkins picks up that fastest lap point. I'm sure he will keep going faster and faster throughout the race, but he's doing absolutely everything he can to secure the most amount of points possible.
For sure. And as it stands in the championship, with Josh Wilkins on course for 21 points, with Fossi down in 13th.
Contact.
There's
That'll
contact.
Be Fawzi passed.
Yeah.
Oh, he's backed out of it. TJW hit the inside of Jess's car and nearly spun off, but Fawzi didn't take advantage of it, and that's going to lose even more time now. And I wonder, Damon's too slow, luckily for Fawzi, because he's just being held up now. Look at him, he just can't get by, and it's so frustrating to watch on board.
What I was going to say is the standings with the positions as they are in this Grand Prix, Wilkins will be leading the championship by 16 points over Fossi, with Jason falling further behind in third place because he's not in the points either.
Yeah, this is... Oh, nearly contact again, but yeah, this is just perfect, isn't it, for Josh Wilkins? Honestly, he mustn't be able to believe his luck, because he'll find himself with nearly a race wins advantage all of a sudden, and if he can keep pace up like this for the next few rounds, he could find himself winning the championship comfortably in the end. But let's not talk about it too early. We're in the wet conditions, it's only lap 4, and one mistake could send you straight to the back.
Fossi struggling to keep his car on the track. You saw how wide he was going there. He was waiting for the curb to arrive so that he made sure that he had enough grip available, but the curbs are not where you want to be on a wet track. And Fossi looks to get past Jess, but the thing is with Jess, there's no blue flags involved, so why should she just let him pass?
Yeah, no reason to. Absolutely no reason. So, if you want to be the best, you've got to pass everyone fairly, haven't you? And I think he's going to get through now. Alex Lilliard, he can't get into your car. He's joined very late, unfortunately, but Fawzi does get by Jess in the end. But let's just see how much time he's lost. He's lost a whole 2 seconds behind her. So, he needs a safety car. Fawzi Bear needs a safety car.
Well, he's got to play his strategy as well, because they've got to pit twice at least in this race as well. Wilkins will be absolutely... don't know what's the description, not quaking in his boots, but most certainly grinning his teeth in delight with the way things are going at the moment. He has a 5-second lead over Smithy in second place, Matthias in third, Jamie in fourth, and it's Joa, Buzzer, Ols and Stephen who's in eighth. The Red Bulls are doing okay though, with Infamous ninth despite the penalties picked up, and Mackie in 10th.
Yeah. Just checking, by the way, sorry, just to look at something else. I was just checking to see what Jason's pace was like, because I'm also seeing that he's a bit in no man's land. I mean, he's 30 seconds behind and not really gaining much, and he seems to be struggling out there. I do worry for him at the minute, because he's obviously behind Josh already, isn't he, in the standings? So he'd possibly be looking at falling outside of contention for the championship really early if this doesn't go well. So he also needs a safety car. These Ferraris, man, this is really concerning, especially when you've got likes of, Red Bull, as you say. I mean, they've made so much positions up. I just don't know how they're going to do this. I really don't know how they're going to get through this, because no one's crashing. They need the accidents to happen, but nothing's happening.
So just looking to see who's got the least amount of fuel on board out of all these drivers. I don't know if it tells us on the task, but I was just good to see, because I saw Josh Wilkins for a moment. His fuel was rather tight, but having said that, in these conditions, you're able to save fuel more, as Jason posts the fastest up of the race.
Yeah, so Jason, let's say, he's going to have to do this all by himself, but if he can keep going like that, then that'll do him okay. But it's still 30 seconds, a long way to go, but a lot of time to catch And Smithy isn't letting himself fall under any pressure from Matthias at least, so he seems pretty comfortable in second. And this is where this lack of DRS becomes an issue, because it doesn't appear like anyone can actually fight out here unless there's a big pace difference or a mistake. No one's really trying to pull any moves, and no one's doing any pit stops either. I wonder if this is a good time to maybe just, if you're, say, I don't know, the likes of say Jamie or Matthias, you want to make a pit stop now and just try and get some sort of undercut and try and get yourself somewhere, because you've got to make 2 stops. Even in the rain, you've got to make 2 stops, and these intermediates can easily do 10 laps. And that's what you're going to have to do if you pit on lap 6, 2 10-lap stints. Would this possibly suggest that we're going to get into full wet conditions, maybe go to dry later on? Because I'm surprised no one's done it. Not a single driver's thought, I might pit now. No one. Surely we're going to get more interesting weather later on.
I mean, they're definitely not. The conditions are not right for wet tyres anyway. It's going to be the intermediates, so it's just a matter of when you come in. But you don't want to come in at the same time as a lot of the other drivers
Infamous is off. He's going to recover, Infamous, but he has taken the long way round, turn 2, and lost a few positions as a result. TJW wants to try and take advantage and get by Indecisive as well, but he can't manage it, so Fozzie Bear now staring at just 2 cars in front of him. Can he take advantage? We'll have to wait and see. Fozzie has at least saved his ERS, but so is everyone else, so that's not really much of an advantage actually. They're all just driving to a number and they're making it work. And that's where a mistake for Infamous, that's how costly it can be. And he'll probably struggle to gain that back. As we see Demon in the grass. Might get overtaken by Storm, who made that early stop for a front wing. Has he actually been in the pits again, I wonder? No, he hasn't. He's just so far behind, unfortunately. The cold driver might stay there at the minute.
Smithy has just been receiving, he's just received a time penalty actually for exceeding track limits, so he's dropped back from Wilkins as well over the course of this one. So Wilkins continues to lead by nearly 7 seconds over the AlphaTauri, and it's Matthias behind in 3rd place. Well, Smithy in 2nd place, and it's Matthias in 3rd. Wilkins taking the fastest lap away from Jason at the moment, but as it stands, Jason would still be able to get that championship point for being the fastest driver out of all those outside the top 10 as TJW pits in.
So the first proper pit stop of this race that isn't been for damage, I hope, as Jason speeds into the pit lane, also making his first stop. And like I say, you can do enter, there's no problem with doing that. 10 laps on each tyre for the 2nd and 3rd stint should be easy enough to do. And it's free air for TJW and for Jason. Will he take the 5-second penalty straight away? No, so we have to take that on his next pit stop. And that might cost him later on if we end up in a safety car situation where he can't take any advantage. But yeah, free air for these two, back on track, and we'll see if there's any progress that they can make.
So I think Jason's going to rejoin behind Demon actually. So Jason's nearly, well, he's down in 16th place, which is just 1 position before the last place man, which is Storm. But at least all 17 drivers are still running in this Grand Prix. And I have to say, in terms of the drivers in the hot list, I think we've got to put Smithy in there, don't you? As well as Matthias, actually. I think either of those two, maybe Wilkins. I mean, to be honest, any one of those top 3 could be on the hot list for me at the moment.
Yeah, they're all having a very good day so far, aren't they? I mean, Matthias will be a bit disappointed with his start, but to even be up there in the first place, I don't think anyone was expecting that. So it's good from him. Smithy, like I say, with that penalty would also promote Matthias up into 2nd place again if he can just sit there, but like I say, that's such a long way to go. Fozzie, is he moving up to P9 on the inside of the Red Bull of Indecisive? And yes, he has got through. I wonder if Indecisive is going to try and cut back on him, but he's actually cut into the pit lane. And he looks to be the only driver pitting on this lap. So yeah, these pit stops are very odd. I don't really know how to predict any of this in a minute.
I don't know if they'll predict the weather in the remainder of this race. It could be that we are going to have dry conditions towards the end. I'm not 100% sure. But Indecisive actually comes into the pits from what was 10th place. And he should get out in front, maybe in front of Jason if he's lucky. Although he's just got past Demon now, because Demon's just run wide at Stowe.
So just seeing then, Alex Lilliard put in his chat, by the way, he said he had a power cut, but that's why he couldn't get in. Baza, is he going to try and do the move on the inside of Cops? This is a very risky one.
No, he
And
won't
he's
do.
understeered anyway.
Yeah, he's
so
understeered into he's understeered onto the curb on the exit of Cops, and he remains behind Joe as well. Buzzer's been quite a long serving. Well, I wouldn't say long serving, but he was involved in one hub racing last season, so it's not like he's a rookie. Oh, he's just ran onto the curb. He's been penalised for it.
That's a harsh one, isn't it? That was barely over, if it even was over. Well, it must have been over, but it couldn't have been by any more than like the smallest amount. And he's been penalised for it. Matthias is into the pit lane, Smithy is into the pit lane, so Jimmy Met will stay out. But we do have some movement at the front of the field now, at least. So let's see how this all pans out. Like I say, probably the longest and slowest pit lane of the entire season. There shouldn't be any massive changes here, but we'll see what sort of space these two are brought back out into.
So two of the top three.
All gone okay.
Yeah, two of the top three in the pits as Smithy looks to exit in some clean air. Jess is coming round now, so I'd imagine he'll be behind Jess. Maybe not, but I think Matthias is going to be, and that's not good news for him.
And West nearly smashes into the back of Jess as well. That's not worked out at all well for Matthias, actually. Finding himself just stuck, look. He's completely stuck. Two cars in front of him, not even just the one. Luckily, it looks like West is trying to get past Jess straight away. But that's definitely not what West was hoping for there.
So West
or
down
what
the inside.
Matthias is hoping for.
Yeah, West down the inside of Jess into Brooklands, and that is P10 going to him. He'll be hoping to just keep his discipline in order, following his comments post-race last week, which he did get a couple of penalty points for. I'm just looking to see who has the most penalty points at the moment. It's Stephen with 4. He's already served his qualifying ban, but remember, it's 6 points for a race ban and 8 points for a season disqualification.
Fozzie nearly crashed into the back of Stephen there as he headed onto the straight. He's looking so fast at the minute, but just trying to make his way up the field. Baza as well looking quite good on the back of Joe, but he's just gone wide at the last corner. All this is helping Jimmy to pull away. Is he going to do the overcut? As the rain looks to be getting lighter, in fairness. Fozzie's into the pit lane. Are we actually heading towards dry soon? Are they trying to do 2 dry stints, these guys who are staying out, I wonder? That is a bold strategy. That's what they are doing, as Matthias goes up the inside and passes Jess. But yeah, do you reckon they're going to try and do 2 dry stints, these guys? Because why else are they staying out there if it's not going to dry up?
I reckon they'll switch on to a set of softs, and then either on the penultimate lap, they'll come in and just pit in for another set of softs to get to the end of the race, so that they've done their 2 stops. That could be the way to go. It's a bit like in Formula 1 in the past. I remember in 2011 at the Nürburgring where Massa and Vettel came in at the end of the penultimate lap. Do you remember that? And Vettel Vettel got the jump on him in the pits.
This race has stopped, look now, completely stopped. So these guys could be in the pits in the next 2 laps, and it could be even just 2 flat out dry stints on the softs, you know, to the end. The tyres last plenty around here, so yeah. I wouldn't write off Smithy's strategy though, by the way. I mean, it could work wonders for him. If we get any safety cars in the crossover period and he gets his 2 stops done like that, you know, this is the most dangerous part of the race, and he's already made 1 mandatory stop, and so that could be important. Is Jimmy Met still pitting though? Jimmy Met still wants to pit. So he's going to pit now and see if his overcut works, as the rest still keep going. But let's see. It'll still be an intermediate tyre at this stage. Oh no, it's a soft. Now his Jeff must have told him to do this. Otherwise, why else would you be on dries when there's spray everywhere? But this is probably the most experienced driver on the grid. We've also got Steven in for these. The track is improving either incredibly quickly or Jimmy Met's made a bit of a mistake. I'd say watch his outlap, because this is going to be a very interesting outlap. Before that though, is Baz going to get past Joe? No. Right, let's see. Jimmy Met, he has been jumped by Matthias, but let's see, can he make any impression on him? Look at how much spray there is. There's no way this works, surely.
Well, the DRS hasn't been enabled yet. You can see how slow he is coming out of the loop. So maybe it was a premature decision there for Jamie to go onto the slicks. But we are heading towards that crossover point. So it could well be that maybe one part of the track may be drier than the other part. I think maybe by the time he gets to the end of this lap, the track could be getting to a point where the intermediates are not the best tyres to be on.
I think he's losing too much time, though, isn't he? I could see why he's trying it. Fozzie Bear's trying it as well for mediums. And that'll be to go to the end of the race, I think. He'd be the first driver to complete all 2 stops. But even though DRS has just been enabled, Jamie Met has nearly just put it in the wall. So I wouldn't exactly say it's ready for dries. Yeah, I wouldn't exactly say this is ready.
Yeah.
They're pitting these guys. The guys are pitting though. Bazza and Alls have raced into the pit lane, but Jamie would surely have been telling Alls that, yeah, I know the game's saying it's ready, but it's not. I would have gone one more lap if I were these guys, but well, what do I know? I'm in the commentary box. Maybe it will improve quick enough, but we'll see.
And Wace has been penalised for speeding as well, so that'll be 5 seconds added to the next pit stop that he does. But so Wilkins and Joe are staying out there, and Smithy going up into 3rd place. But he's in a good position now, is Smithy, actually, because he's already made a pit stop. He's got one more to make, and Wilkins and Joe have got to make 2 pit stops, and Jason gets caught speeding again.
There was an off for Alls on the pit lane exit, nearly put it into the pit wall. Bazza nearly crashed as well. And I'm sorry, Matthias is still lapping quicker than Jamie Met. So I don't think the dries are the right option right now. And so yeah, this does leave Smithy and Matthias looking very clever. Is that the 2 Red Bulls coming off as well? As infamous, let's actually Indecisive go through. Indecisive has so much more grip. But yeah, the guys who've already made their first stops, this is looking good for them now. And yeah, Josh Wilkins into the pits.
Let's see how this goes.
Jamie Met's still losing time, but yeah, I guess they have to pit now. They'd have to make 2 stops, these front guys.
So Smithy was 38 seconds behind Wilkins, so I don't think Wilkins will lose the lead, actually, as Joa comes into the pits as well. Those 2 are in good position, actually. Well, saying they're in a good position, Smithy and Matthias will be in a better position because they've already pitted. Look, Matthias nearly getting in front of Smithy there with the DRS.
He's going to get him now, surely. I think Smithy's going to pit. They're both going to pit, so they're going to go for the dries now. I guess if everyone's on the dries, then it's not going to cost them much. But this is their second stops, and they've done the work by pitting for inters first. And so this is them finishing their pit strategy. So going inter soft appears to be the best strategy. As we see, TJW facing the wrong way. That'll be on his way into the pit lane. He's got that entry a bit wrong, but he hasn't broken the car. Oh, he has now. Disaster this.
Yeah, and Indecisive have had to take evasive action, and he's gone into the pit lane a bit too quick, I think, or unless he's just been able to stop it in time. TJW needs to make sure he keeps his driving stance in check. Yeah, he nearly went into the pit lane too quick there, didn't he? So Wilkins did stay in the lead on the road. Jamie Met is in 2nd place. I'm just looking to see how many stops he's made. It's only made the 1 stop, but Smithy and Matthias have pitted twice, so they're in prime position to win this race.
I wouldn't say win the race. I think Josh is too fast, but I would certainly say that they'll be on for that 2nd and 3rd, as Fozzie there sets the fastest lap. But we'll see how everyone gets on. So gap to leader. Yeah, Smithy's 34 seconds off, so he's not going to win the race, but Jamie now has a job to do because he's got the free air in front of him and he's got to use it because his main target is basically Matthias, actually, because Smithy's got his 6 seconds of penalties. And he's going to be on fresh sauce now and at the end compared to Smithy and Matthias's mediums. So there very well could be a 2nd place on the line for Jamie. Alls as well will be looking at trying to join him on the podium for a 2nd McLaren double podium on the trot. Bazza, shame about his penalty because actually he's made up so many places. He's up to 3rd now. But we'll have to worry about that penalty at the end. But yeah, the rain, the crossover periods, that shit this round a little bit as Bazza proves his pace.
So Bazza within a second now of Jamie. Bazza will be on better tyres than Jamie's is because he'll have wasted a lot of the rubber through the spray. of which he did his outlap on, but he's in second place now. Just to see how many stops he's only made, just the one stop. Waste posts a new fast stop, so the fast stop keeps chopping and changing as the track keeps improving. Who else is on? Well, say who's on good laps at the moment. The driver with the fast stop of the race is obviously Waste inside the top 10. Outside the top 10, it is Jess who occupies that.
Yeah, we'll see how that all continues on. Jason now sits that fast lap. Fozzie Bear, purple final sector. Ferrari though still 12th and 13th, and more penalties going their way. I'm now starting to seriously wonder if these Ferraris are even going to get a chance at points. They literally will be fighting for the fastest lap between each other at this rate at the end. Utter nightmare as it stands. They need a safety car right now. But Baza, he wants second place right now. Look at him. This is a stunning drive so far for Baza, who's now gone from 11th to 2nd on the road. And he's now going to make some time out because he has got the penalty to worry about. But at the minute, his pace is so good, it must be quicker than Josh's even at the minute. He's absolutely flying. Let's see if this will be another purple lap for him, because that DRS will certainly have helped him out. And he seems way faster than anyone else out there at the moment. And indeed, a fastest lap of the race again. Baza is now catching Josh
by a rate of knots as well, and I think Buzz has only pitted once though, so he'll need to be coming into the pits again. He knows that being on the soft tyre, you may as well be on the soft tyre anyway, because you're going to be pitting close towards the end of the race. Even you're having to do like 8 or 9 laps, you still got the remainder of the race to do, and Waze has posted a new fast lap, 1 minute 31.5.
Yeah, so the track obviously is improving, but the drivers who are taking most of the back judge of it are Baza and I guess Waste. Yeah, he's setting fast laps as well. He's nowhere near anyone though. Baza's, his task is to try and just pull away from Jamie Met first, and then worry about how quickly he's catching up to the race leader. He probably won't get there. He probably won't even actually get close to it. But as long as he can try and consolidate that second position, it'd be a very strong day for him. As Smithy fights with infamous Red Bull and AlphaTauri going for it, but it is Smithy on those mediums that are going to the end of the race, remember, that is winning out so far. I don't think Infamous is going to come back at him. Too risky as they head towards Cop's corner. Is Jamie Met going to be able to make any sort of fight back against Baza? It doesn't look like it. Even though he's got the DRS active at the moment, he's just going to have to sit back.
And Demon now posting a fast lap, 131.1, so even in last place, Demon setting some brilliant lap times. He's pulling away actually from Wilkins as a result of it. Now
go ahead.
Yeah, he's on the rear of Storm actually in the battle for 16, so this is not for points. Stephen now posts a new fast lap of the race in the Williams. Fosberg gets a time penalty for track limits. He's currently in 13th place. Jason's penalty is now 11 seconds. So those two will be swapping positions as it stands, which would see Fosberg increase his lead over his teammate, but he'll lose the championship lead to Wilkins.
Yeah, these two Ferraris, they're overdriving to the point where they're basically fighting each other now. I think they've realised this. They're catching Jess at about 2 or 3 seconds a lap, but even then that's only for 11th place, and then Matthias ahead, they'll fall a pit stop behind him. So while they are setting some real pace, it's all the errors at the start of the race which has just cost them so dear. And we'll see if they can pick up anything. They need, like I say, I'll keep saying it, they need a retirement. We've got side by side with Demon and Storm, but that's not going to provoke any safety cars because Demon's well clear of the Alpine, which is going to the end of the race. He might make a position or two up from that. But Baza has now made that gap over Jamie. He's not going to be under pressure from Joe, but he has run out of ERS already.
Yeah, Joe not able. Yeah, Joe not able to get in front. Smithy now gets another penalty. That's his total up to 9 seconds. Not what he needs.
These two Ferraris are getting close to having a fight. Storm.
Out.
Look out for the safety car. Top left corner. If it is deployed, Ferrari's day could be saved. He's went off at turn sort of 2. I'm not seeing any safety cars coming out though. The car's on the left hand side as we head towards turn 3. But, much to Ferrari's displeasure, we're not seeing a safety car come out for it. And that is just rubbing salt into their wounds as it gets cleared away and we stay green.
So Storm becomes the first retirement in this race. He's crashed out just before Village. So that is his race run. Another race without points for Storm. So that'll be him remaining on the cold list. Here's from not very good at the moment. Stephen coming in for his final pit stop to go into the set of the softs, and he rejoins in 11th place, no problem. So he should be able to make up some positions once the others do come in for their last pit stops before the checkered flag. Wilkins, though, 9.6 seconds clear on the road ahead of Buzzer.
So Jason nearly put it into the wall a couple of moments ago, trying to keep up with his teammate Fozzie as they continue to close in on the Williams now of Stephen, who made his pit stop. I assume he was in the pits hoping that a safety car would come out while he was in, if he could just save a few seconds. It didn't work out that way, but he should still be in for a top 10. Either way, top 12 get points. So that's not worked out too bad, I guess, in the end. Jamie's pitted. He'll pit some softs on to the end of the race. They'll easily make it. And Jason, again, he's nearly crashed, and this time he's actually had to cut cops because he went through there, fully drifted through there. He turned in too early, and the rear was not having any of it. He's destroying his tyres, and he's nearly putting himself out of the race. It feels like a matter of time now before one of these Ferraris ends up out of the race. They are overdriving. Absolutely, certainly overdriving. As Jamie comes back out, he will be behind Matthias as we expect, but now he's going to have to try and close in on him and see what he can do. But yeah, he's actually quite close to him as well, and Baza might even be ahead when he makes his pit stop, so that's worth watching, because if Baza can get ahead of Matthias and then pull away, that could really help his podium charge.
So who's pitted twice then? So the highest of those who's pitted twice is Smithy in 6th place. He is currently, how far is he off the lead? He's 31 seconds off the lead. So even if he was to get in front of Wilkins, he would still have that penalty to drop him back. So that's a really bad dent there for Smithy. So who would be on your... Yeah, I was just going to say, who would be on your hot list?
Baza at the minute, I think. I mean, obviously, the obvious choice would be Josh, and he would be on there too, but I think if you're looking at who's been good in race pace, I mean, Baza's on Wilkins' pace now. He's come up from 11th place, and if he can make this pit stop and strategy work at the end, he could be on to finish 2nd place. So, right now, he's driver today.
So Ol's into the pits for the last time, coming in a lap after his teammate. He's going to another set of softs for the last stint.
Let's see, Jamie's now getting a bit stuck behind Matthias, but he seems well quicker than him, as you would expect really with new softs against the used mediums. No purple sector, I don't think there for Jamie then, but he should still come out well ahead of his teammate. I mean, yes, he is. He's well clear, so not going to have to worry about him or Waite or Infamous. He's only going to have to worry about the Haas in front of him. How quickly is he going to get him? The two Ferraris are still closing on each other, and Jason is drifting through every single corner. He's destroying these rear tyres, but now in the top 10, both of them. Like I say, they have both made their stops, but the penalties could affect this all still. So they've got to just keep this on the island, Ferrari, salvage what they can, because there might be some sort of attack coming from Waste and Infamous on their brand new softs at the closing stages. Look at this though, Jamie's really all over the back of Matthias now. Josh Wilkins has pitted. Is Baza going to follow him in? Yes, he is. Matthias has gone off the road. Here comes Jamie Merritt through towards Maggots and Beckett. He's up in front of him. That's a really important move to make. And Jamie now into the clean air. 8.2 seconds behind Smithy. And I think, what's the penalty? 9 seconds. So he is already ahead of Smithy and will keep closing as well. But let's see where Baza's going to end up. We know Josh will stay in the lead. We don't know where Joe or Baza will end up being. So let's see. They look like relatively good stops. All good on that front. And look out for the McLaren then. Like I say, such a slow pit lane. You'd think from this position, surely they'd get ahead, but it is just painfully slow here. Oh, it's going to be close. Full pace, remember, Jamie through turn 1, as we see one of the Red Bulls is off, and Baza is still ahead of Jamie, but Joe is behind Matthias. Now, who was that Red Bull off the road? I think it was Indecisive, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And so that might move from hot to cold at this rate. But yeah, the sun's out now. Look at that. It's a beautiful summer's day in England all of a sudden.
Yeah, all of a sudden as well. Well, we are in October now in the autumn over in the UK, so it could be one of those sort of changeable conditions.
A bit late.
Yeah, it came a bit late, but nevertheless, the Sun is out for the remaining 6 laps of this one, as Jamie is in 4th place, but with the penalties applied to Buzzer and Chris, he'll be going to 2nd place, and it'll be another podium for his credit.
Yeah, so Smithy, I wasn't actually seeing if he got ahead of Josh at any point. He's obviously in a second now, but with the pace he's got and the penalties he's got, it's not really relevant. And Josh will see that, and Smithy will see that as well. Yellow flag. Indecisive put it in the wall this time.
Yeah.
But no major damage done, I don't think. So he will recover back to the road, but his day is falling apart now, unfortunately. And the man he'd made, 5 or 6 places in the early stages, was well in the top 10. Not anymore, as he continues to fall down the field. And now Alls and Stephen, they're fighting. Now Stephen pitted a bit earlier than Alls, because he pitted when Storm crashed, hoping the safety car would come. That's a really acute angle though, to go into the last couple of corners. Lucky not to end up in the side of Alls there. And those two are costing themselves time. Might help the Ferraris catch up. As again they're going to go side by side there, as Stephen's just going to back it off, taking a wide line for the first corner to try and cut back towards Farm, and he's trying to fit himself up to 7th place. Seems the faster driver, doesn't he? But he's not quite making it work. Waste fastest lap of the race, and he's catching those 2 Ferraris. We could end up with the Ferraris and all sorts of bother towards the end of this thing. Stephen is now going to get past Alls and up into 7th place, as Jimmy has fell nearly 2 seconds now behind Baza. So Baza looking very good for that 2nd place still. And I tell you what, he's made a lot of time on Josh Wilkins as well. I'm not too sure just how good his pace really is. Shame he has a penalty, because there could have been some threat put up for him towards Josh, but not with a penalty.
No, and just looking at the Ferraris at the moment with the penalties for Jason and Fozzie Bear wouldn't lose any positions, but Jason would fall behind only Wace, I think. So Wace, with the fastest lap at the moment, he would still get a point of it, as well as getting points for finishing in 10th. Well, here's another thing. Fozzie Bear has been penalised, so that gives Wace an opportunity to actually finish 9th in this one.
Here comes Alls again, round the outside of Stephen for that P7. A very understeering moment as Stephen sends Alls very wide indeed, but they stay side by side. And is there going to be another dive bomb attempt as Stephen goes flying round the outside into the last 3 chicanes, but he's not quite going to make it work. He's now cut the corner completely and got it really quite wrong. This has helped the Ferraris catching up very nicely indeed. And those two, lucky to still be in the race with how big that moment was, could easily have wiped wheels off that car.
So Stephen, I think he was too cautious through club corner there, and that cost him a bundle of time, has allowed the 2 Ferraris to actually close in on him. And the bad news for Stephen is that he's got an 11-second time penalty, so he could be falling behind Fozzie Bear and Wace by the end of this race, so he could be losing 2 positions as it stands. Smithy at the moment, as it stands with the penalty he has, he would be losing possibly 3 positions. So he needs to get on with it, really, does Smithy.
Yeah, he really does now, doesn't he, Rooney? He's got Baza catching him as well. Baza, who is now confirmed 2nd place after pulling the 3-second gap he needed to on Jamie, mate. But yeah, I think Jamie, he's just about within the gap he needs still. So yeah, Smithy's podium is at risk by Jamie. Stevens picked up another penalty. He's trying to get by Alls. That Ferrari of Fozzie Bear is all over him now, and this is now a 4-car scrap. But the 2 slowest tyres are at the back of this, but they're catching the fastest, and this could make this quite a fascinating scrap. As again, Stevens completely cut the corner. Jason's also been getting penalties, and this 4-car scrap's about to get properly started as Stephen again tries to find some way through Alls. Gonna have a good run onto the main straight. He's using his ERS as well, doing everything he can. He's going to pull this move possibly into turn 1. That's a very risky one to do. He decides to back out of it, but he's certainly showing himself on all his mirrors. And now Fozzie Bear has a real shot at getting him in towards Farm. Can he have a little look? No, he just sits back. Doesn't risk an accident. These are all important moves as Stephen looks again on Alls, not going to find a way through. These two are so squirrely. And Stephen does get through. Fozzie Bear will also surely get through. Jason, not quite. He's just going to sit back and watch all this as it takes place. Fozzie Bear gets through without any contact on Alls and is up into 8th place.
I was just going to say, if Alls, even as he was fall behind Fozzie Bear and Stephen, as well as Jason, he can still finish ahead of them once the penalty has been applied. Smithy now has 15 seconds worth of time penalty.
Yeah,
this is just
done.
this is a wasted opportunity for me as Smithy. He bottled it in Spa. He's totally bottled it today here at Silverstone.
It's a shame he has the pace as well, Smithy, but keeping up quite nicely on those mediums compared to what Josh is doing on the softs. But the penalties have really cost him today. And, well, he'll have to look back on this one. At least he'll look back on the pace, because it is strong pace. As Fozzie Bear nearly goes over the top there, Stephen. So nearly wheel-to-wheel contact on the straight. That could have been an airplane crash. But Stephen has held his ground. And Fozzie can't get through. Jason is all over Alls, and he can't quite get by him either. The Ferraris are struggling to make the grind up. But, nearly comes up in the final corner. Jason, though, does make it through, but that could so easily have been in the fence for both of those guys, and he's still oversteering like mad through the corners. Quite how he's not ended up in the fence at this point, Jason, I have no idea. He's driving so aggressively. And Wes has now joined this fight. He picked up a penalty or two on the way, but he is now here, so it's a 5-way scrap for P7 on the road.
I think Jason is a contender for a contender on my cold list for today, because his qualifying has been great. He's been caught up in mayhem on the first lap, and he's been receiving a 20-second time penalty. This is by far his worst performance of the season, in my opinion.
Wes now is going to try and get by Jason. He made absolutely no trouble with getting by Alls. And look at Fozzie as well, inside of Cops. That's not a good idea. Stephen just sticks to the middle of the road and then goes wide off the track. Any chance of getting through there? Not quite. Wes is trying to get by Jason as well through Maggots, but has to back it off. He can see P7 on the road is right there for him, and I think he wants to try and get it as soon as possible, because there's only a lap and a half to go. Well, really a lap and a sector now for these guys, as Josh Wilkins has started the final lap. Wes does pull over and does try and get ahead. Fozzie as well is right on the outside, and there's contact with Stephen, who's gone round, and Jason's hit the side of Wes as well. It's kicking off here in the closing stages. Stephen is now recovering to the track. Can he catch up on these guys in the closing stages? As there's more contact with Alls, who goes round, and Jason, who has probably got away with no damage. Doesn't look like he's got anything on the front right, but Alls is facing the wrong way and gets himself facing the correct way, but now in 11th place. He should still be on for some points, but not as many as he was going to get before. Stephen back into the top 10. Jason, his aggressive driving, is now going to land in a little bit of trouble potentially with Stephen, who will be really trying to get past one Ferrari after the other one biffed him off. Although you could argue it was more of his understeer. He had that before. We had a snap through the Stowe corner, and I wonder if that's just happened again and caused a contact with Fozzie Bear. We'll see what stewards might say about it. Wes might still try and get Fozzie Bear on his last lap as well, but no one is going to catch Josh as he heads through into the final sector. He's led this one from turn 1.
Most certainly so. Here he comes then through Stowe corner. Wilkins is most certainly going to take victory here on home turf. A significant one as well, because this one will put him into the championship lead. Through Club Corner, Wilkins rounds the last corner to win the British Grand Prix at Silverstone in the prospects here. An excellent job from him. Smithy's crossed the line, second on the road, but there's no way he'll be keeping that. So it's Buzzer, I think. He'll be going to second place. Excellent performance from him today. Very well done. And Jamie going to the podium for the second race running for McLaren. So Smithy drops to 4th, Matthias Fierro 6th. Fozzie will be in 7th place ahead of Wace. Jason will fall down the order with that mammoth time penalty that he has. So he could fall down to as low as 12th place, only picking up 1 championship point for himself. So I think Stephen's going to be 9th. We'll just see where Alls ends up by the end of this one. He actually goes to 9th. So Stephen down to 10th. Jason, Infamous is 10th. Stephen down to 11th. Jason 12th. Jess will be 13th. TJW 14th. Demon down 11th, 15th. And Mackie 16th. Just the one with Simon. That is Storm.
Just to add insult to injury to Jason, he's not only fallen down to 12th, but he doesn't even have a fastest lap to sort of get a point off. That'll go to Demon quite comfortably outside the top 10. So Jason, only 1 point today. What a disaster. Wes picks up the other fastest lap point, but yeah, what a disaster for Ferrari in general. I mean, Fozzie made a decent comeback, I guess, from his mistake on lap 1. Jason just never got going, and Baza, rightfully the driver today by the game, and we'll get onto all that in a moment.
So the driver's coming out onto the podium. Wilkins celebrating his 4th victory of the season from 7 rounds, and he leads the championship by quite some way. We'll mention the gaps actually in a moment once we see the race result. But in the meantime, the drivers celebrate onto the podium. It's an old British affair with Wilkins on top, Bassett in second, and in third is Jamie. All three will be absolutely delighted with the performance today. No more than Josh Wilkins with 20 championship points. So here's your race result then, with Wilkins the winner, with Bassett in second, Jamie third, Heather Smithy, then it's Matthias in fifth, Joa in sixth, Fozzie Bear in seventh place, Wace 8, Ols 9th, and Infamous running out the top 10. Stephen was 11th, followed by Jason in 12th, 1 point only for him. Jess 13th, CJW 14th, Demon 15th, Indecisive 16th, and Storm, the only driver to not finish. CJW got a point for the fastest out of those outside the top 10, and within the top 10, it is Buzz, I believe. No, it's not, it's Wace who got the fast start for that. So the championship gap between Wilkins and Fozzie Bear only getting, how many points is it for finishing 7th? Let me have a look. Just looking to see. It is 6 points. So the gap at the top that Wilkins has over Fozzie Bear is now, I believe, 11 points going to the next round at the Red Bull Ring. So I think it's time for you, Owen, to mention your driver day and question, and also to mention our sponsors and partners.
Yep, I will straight away say Baz is my driver today. He went from 11th to 2nd. The question I'll ask you, Baz, is when you find yourself retiring from qualifying and just missing out on the top 10, how did you think you were going to do in that race? Did you think a podium was on the table, and how did you feel having achieved it?
Excellent. And my driver of the day, I'm going to give it to Matthias because of his incredible performance in qualifying and maintaining a clean race there. And my question for Matthias would be, that was by far your best performance of the season, contributed by your excellent performance in that wet qualifying session to get you onto pole. How were you able to avoid all the carnage at the start and keep out of everyone's way and keeping your car clean throughout to finish where you ended up in the top 5 or 6? So that would be my question. Do you want to mention sponsors and partners, Owen, because you haven't done that yet?
Yep, indeed. Thank you once again to our sponsors at Next Level Racing. They provide a direct drive stand to your driver of the season. 3M Sim Racing, they sponsor the league by providing a pair of their sim racing gloves to the driver with the most combined poles and fastest laps. And of course, your partners, Vespertine, who support our championship prizes, and ERT, who partner the ERT Going Gets Tough award. And of course, all our race premium drivers as well. Thank you, everybody.
And to mention as well that in the Constructors' Championship, Alfa Romeo have closed in on Ferrari by 13 points. So the gap at the top has now been cut down from 24 to just 11 points going to the next round at the Red Bull Ring. Imagine if Alex Liot was in today's race, Alfa Romeo could have been walking away from Silverstone with the Constructors' lead. But there's still 3 rounds to go. Red Bull Ring is next, then Austin, and then Imola at the beginning of November. Owen, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone that's been watching. Do make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And we can't wait to see it all over again. Same time next week, 6 PM British Summer Time on Friday, the 22nd of October. I think that's right. 22nd of October next week? That's
sounds about right.
Yeah. I'm Tom Cairns. He's Owen Wyatt. And we'll speak to you again soon when One Hub Racing returns.